And welcome back to Championship Sunday for Celestial Assault, presented by the Gundam Evolution New Type League, part of the Pilot Academy. I'm EGP Wonder Chef, joined by James Jamerson Lee. We've got one of our matches down for the grand finals, or I should say one of our teams down. One of the matches has been finished, deciding that it will be Team Mafty making it into that spot, but now it's time for Losers Finals.
Yeah, Mafty have secured themselves top two in a very dominant fashion. Now it comes down to IQ and Tekka Dynasty. We haven't seen these two teams face off against each other. Both of them looked very good in their matches so far, except for this last one for IQ, unfortunately, because Mafty just looked so stellar. Across the board, every single player was just doing an amazing job. And so what can you do in the face of that kind of competition right now? But for IQ, this is their opportunity to try and bounce back. You know, maybe it's a slow start to the day. We have to kind of understand that, like, when we do have these, like, two-day events, that sometimes the first set of the day, it might just not be yours. You just need a little bit more time to warm up.
Yeah, and now we've set up the situation where either of these teams that is in this Losers Finals, either IQ or Tekka Dynasty, they're both fighting for that rematch, right? Both of them now have been knocked into the Losers bracket by Team Mafty, which means, of course, Team Mafty is sitting up there and they're like, oh, we're good. We are chilling. But that means that, honestly, both of these teams are going to be that much hungrier for the rematch. I've seen it a million times in a million different games where you're like, okay, I lost there. I don't feel like I should have lost there. And we're gonna fight back, and we're gonna figure out what's wrong, and we're hungry, you know. So we'll see which of these two teams is hungrier, and it's really cool that we do get to manage to be in this top three situation, in this Losers Final situation, where we just have no idea which of these two teams is going to do better against the other. I mean, from what we've seen now, it seems like Mafty overall still looking to be kind of the favorite, but both IQ and Tekka Dynasty have been really killing it this weekend, and both of them have been fighting really hard to get to where they are.
Yeah, for Tekka Dynasty, they have a slight advantage, right? If they end up getting the rematch, because they played their matchup against Mafty yesterday. So they have the opportunity to go back, look at the tape, and actually kind of figure out what they did wrong, right? And so they might have more of a game plan moving forward if they end up taking this win. But of course, they have to take this win first here. It's one more best of three between IQ versus Tekka Dynasty to see who gets that rematch up against Mafty.
That's true, and it's exactly what you said. It's actually kind of the opposite here for IQ, right? They are not going to have that much time to make that adaptation. In fact, they are now probably, you know, thinking they had a little bit of the time during that break to be like, okay, well, what did we do wrong there? What do we need to change? Should we change our comp? Should we change the way that we pick and ban the maps? You know, those maps just a little bit too good for them. A lot of close range stuff, but they didn't have that much time, right? They had maybe 5 or 6 minutes within that break because now they're getting ready to immediately face a different team, so they can't even put that much focus on their previous match, or they're going to be just not in the right mindset for this one. So there is going to be, I think, a little bit more of a difficult scramble to make that adjustment if IQ does end up being the one that makes it all the way back up. But they also did just come off of, you know, a loss. They might be a little bit more warmed up, but they might also be a little bit, you know, like just in a different mindset. We'll see. That can really affect how things play out during a, like, especially like the top 3 or top 2 of a tournament. But here we go. We're going into the picks and bans, and that's where it's all going to start out. We started off with some pretty aggressive maps in the last set. We'll see if we stick the same or if we change it around this time.
I believe we started the day off with a Quarry ban, but Quarry has been one of our most popular maps so far during the event. It had 10 picks with 4 bans yesterday. I guess that would make it 5 bans now with that last ban in the first match of the day. And so we'll see if Quarry ends up making it through or not. Flag 4, I'm so sad that we haven't been able to see it as much. Hopefully this one remains open.
Yeah, I am in fact a fan of Flag Fort. I mean, I'm honestly a fan of most of these maps. I don't think there are too many where, especially just being able to watch the matches, I'm not going to enjoy it for different reasons, right? And I think it's one of the coolest things about Gun Evo, too, is that we get to see so many different types of gameplay. The matches that we see on Harbor City are going to be a completely different game than the matches that we end up seeing on, for example, Thermal Plant in that last game, or on Mountain R&D Lab. And even those are very different from what we might see on something like Quarry or something on Flackford. So it can be very, very cool to see how all of these teams play in different paced games. There's not just one particular pace, one particular like level of speed that you need. You need to be able to fight as a team. You need to be able to fight in skirmishes. And some of these teams are going to be better at some of them. And it looks like the first ban is going to Harbor City, so it might be seeing some more close-up matches.
Yeah, banning out the Harbor City, unfortunate, because we got to see, of course, the beginning of the day. It wasn't really, even though we started off on Underground Command Center, it wasn't the sniper battles that we were expecting. Underground Command Center banned out as well. So our hopes of seeing any more Jib sniper play kind of out there. We did get to see a little bit of Jim Sniper on Quarry. I believe one team on the offensive side tried to open up with it. Didn't really get much value, but of course on Quarry, as the offense, you can swap off. But speaking of that, it's going to be Mountain R&D, the IQ pick, and then Quarry, the pick coming out for Tekka Dynasty.
All right, so starting off with the domination and then moving over to just the destruction mission, the kind of Quarry, the most popular, despite the fact that it was banned. Now it is officially the most popular, although we are going to continue to see the ban for the Underground Command Center. So Quarry's just pushing forward slightly, and of course Harbor City as well. Colony Trading Post banned. And that's going to be Flackfort banned, meaning the thermal plant will be our decider. We did see it as a decider, I think, a couple times yesterday, although didn't go to that game 3. But that does mean that we are once again set up for a double domination mission set, which is what we saw last time. Of course, we didn't get a chance to see the third one, which might happen as well this time. But regardless, we're set up for a pretty intense skirmishy match.
Yeah, we get to see at least both of them, right? So we started off our second map for match number 1 of the day. It was Thermal Plant where it ended there. But now we're going to go over to Mountain R&D. And this is going to be interesting. We get to see on Mountain R&D, of course, the focus being put on, I would say, highly onto our Ashmar players. And we got to see that, there was still some great Ashmar play coming out from the IQ side. It just, in the face of basically everyone from Mafty just putting in work, it's so hard to try and break through that really strong team cohesion that was coming out from them. But at this point, I think this is where we're really going to be looking towards our Ashmar players. I don't know if it doesn't seem like the Pale Rider is who we're really focusing on in these engagements when it comes down to Mountain R&D.
Yeah, we did, of course, see Team IQ play on Mountain R&D in their winners semifinals match, which I believe was against Bozos. And that is where we did see Mr. Big Large, aka Sunglasses, pop off on that Ashmar, just doing so much damage, just controlling the entire team. And like you mentioned before, this is such an Ashmar map. It's so important to be able to control that high ground, to control those like lanes with punch as soon as you get them, to not waste those G maneuvers. Same thing we tend to see Doms do really, really well on this map. You can't really do all that much on most of the points to avoid the Screaming Nimbus. The splash damage on the rockets tends to do quite a bit of damage. And if you can get the high ground, just being able to shoot down onto the ground and get that extra ability to not have to direct hit is such a huge boon. So it's going to come down to a lot to how these teams are going to be using, I think, both of those suits. And we've already seen the ability for Mr. Big Large to pop off on this map in this tournament.
And we'll see. Maybe Tekka Dynasty try to opt for that double melee. I mean, we got to see double melee, double brawler coming out from IQ when we were on Thermal Plant. Not to the greatest of effect. The Barbados wasn't getting as much value here, but they can try and run it here. And we imagine that Tekka Dynasty can answer in kind. So this could be a very brawl-heavy kind of composition coming out from either side.
Yeah, I feel like we just really need to talk about it in general, how Barbados has been a real important suit in the fact that it's been very hit or very miss. We've seen some matches, especially I think ones on Quarry, where we've seen some really strong Barbados play, especially on the defensive side. I think it's been able to hold a lot of these angles that you're not able to hold quite as safely with some of the other suits, just because it's managed to get that one shot and it doesn't have to worry about trading quite as much on that defensive side. But we've seen maps where it's jumping up a lot to try to take out people, and it's just not able to find a single hit. We saw one match infamously yesterday where I think there was just it was something like 800 damage overall, and that's just the way that Barbados is as a suit. Doesn't do a lot of damage, but if you just don't get those opportunities, you're not going to get these full one-hit kills. And if you don't find the full one-hit kills, then you're just not getting anything out of the suit. So I think in just the nature of the suit, it's going to be a very hit or very miss suit, quite literally, whether or not you can hit your combos, and we've seen it both ways in this tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to, that was kind of like the goal, right? Especially to all the nerfs that came into Barbados. Instead of being able to reliably hit the 100%, complete destruction, and not just the knock, it's a complete destruction with its full combo and such. And so you have to be able to play this one a little bit more finesse, right? The nuance of the Barbados play is so high now. The skill ceiling for Barbados is so high that when we get to see these specialists, it's a real treat to see Gasman really being able to pop off on it. We'll see if it does end up coming down to Barbados Exia play coming out from either side. We know the capabilities are there. Again, though, this is also another map, like we had mentioned at the beginning, that Ashamar is going to be huge. So we're going to be looking at Mr. Big Large throughout all of this as well, because he did have some huge plays on that Ashamar.
Yeah, just incredible on this map. So for sure, we're going to be looking out for that. But yeah, this is honestly, it's a weird domination map in the fact that a lot of this is controlled by the not super close range fights, right? Like when we were on Thermal Plant very recently, a lot of these fights, you can pop out from multiple different directions. You can really take these angles where you're not going to be, shot full of holes on the way to your opponent. And so we can see things like Barbados do really well by just holding corners and sneaking up on people and using the jump. But Mountain R&D, when you're on point A or point C as well, there is just a wide open range of where you can actually shoot. Like you have longer sight lines than some of the actual like point capture missions, for example. And if you're the Barbados, like you can kind of try to do the jump like through the middle maybe, or from the other side, but it's going to be a lot harder to get those really easy flanks once a team has already taken that high ground. So I feel like it could be on the losing side, a tough thing to help make the comeback. But if it holds the high ground itself, it can hold inside the tunnels. It can hold in a little bit lower on point A and C. And of course on B, it's always going to have that surprise factor. So I do really want to see, again, how it's going to work. It's been the story of this whole weekend. Will the Barbados work? Will it not? I'm surprised we're seeing so much of it, but it's always entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and another change, I think, another difference between the two teams right now, between Tekka Dynasty and for IQ, is going to be a robot versus Fusion Blackie, right? The support players for either side. Fusion Blackie has been opting more for the Gundam Unicorn, but for a robot, I believe for Tekka Dynasty, we've been seeing him primarily on Methus. That could actually be pretty huge when it comes to this. I feel like I definitely favor Gundam Unicorn coming into a lot of these neutral fights, having a lot more staying presence with that AoE heal, the AoE armor that comes out in opposition to the singular heal coming out from the Methus.
Yeah. If you're trying to just really deathball up to that high ground, we've seen the unicorn work really well. Also, just by the nature of the same reasons I think why we tend to see Ashamar do really well with punch on this map is that when you're pushing A or C or B, really any of the sites, there are lanes, right? You get the lane directly down the ramp of the high ground. You get the lane directly into the site on A or C, and then you get sometimes you get the side one down to kind of like, I don't even know what to call it. The one that leads below the high ground. And all of those are exactly like one suit size. So if you can get that punch off, it works really well. Now, Gundam Unicorn also has a very unique G maneuver in, it's gun. It's like beam rifle G maneuver. And that can be a very low impact G maneuver on some sites. So like if you're on like a wide open site, like for example, let's say the very first push on underground command center, right? We see like there's a lot of different angles you can be. So you're going to be like popping that G maneuver. You're going to be like angling up at things, trying to find exactly the shot that you should take. But a lot of the times you're not going to be able to actually get that many hits with it. Now, when you're on these lanes on Mountain R&D, you can for sure just shoot down these lanes and like chunk like 3 people at a time. And that along with a punch or that into another shot, if you've got the high ground already, or that into a flame grenade can be like, okay, half their team is wiped. And so this, I think, is another reason why that's just such a potentially really strong pick on this map.
Yeah, and speaking of AoEs, of course, the DOMs have, like you said, the Screaming Nimb is absolutely insane, but just being able to spam out the DOM. I mean, we got to see that despite the kind of one-sided nature it was between IQ and Mafty, Merle was still almost keeping pace with Casino in a losing match in terms of damage, and that goes to show like the strength of the DOM overall when it comes to especially a competitive setting where teams are playing a little bit more conservative, a little bit closer together. So I'm looking towards Merle to see what he can do on the DOM for this matchup.
Yeah, Merle's been a really strong point, I think, of the team throughout the entire week or the entire weekend that we've seen these broadcasts. There's been, there's a few different ways that you can choose to play Dom, and I love Dom too as well. I know obviously you love Dom, you're a Dom main, but there's just so many different ways you can play, right? You can play a little bit more offensive, you can play a little bit more defensive, a little more backliney, and the way that you use your G maneuvers is also so flexible. We see players like Casino who uses, I would say, like, I don't know, the majority of the time, I'll just say the majority of the time, it's a reactive G maneuver. So it's like, okay, you're going to pop something, I'm immediately going to pop it back. But then we also see the very offensive, like Screaming Nimbus users that are like, okay, we're going to wait for one big push. I'm going to push everybody off the point. We're going to use it here, and we're going to just use it all, at the same time. So it really depends on how you want to use it. Sometimes people even use it just to like save themselves if they don't want to have their team end up being down a player in that fight. Sometimes they'll start to get a little bit low. They're playing a little bit more of the upfront role, and they're just tanking some of the damage just because it does have a little bit more HP, a little bit less now. But there's so many different ways you can use it, and Merle has been really, really good, I think, at finding the right moments in quite a few different situations. I think maybe a little bit, not as much the Casino style of using it, but really, really important like key points on pushes, or when there's like a lot of suits that you can hit all at once.
Yeah, G maneuver value, right? You don't get as much, you don't get anywhere near as much as a Screaming Nimbus. I mean, it's not just a speed up, it's not just the armor, it's not just a confusion, right? There are often times where a Screaming Nimbus can shut down a team that's trying to push in with 2 G maneuvers themselves. It's a great disengage, and you only really need to pop that G maneuver and you can shut down a push all by itself with that. Right now, though, we are still waiting for match number 1. It looks like we're waiting on a player currently, but as soon as we do, we will be getting in underway. We're going to be heading into Mountain R&D in this lower bracket final. Remember, guys, this is the top 3. These are our top 3 teams: Mafty, IQ, and Tekka Dynasty. Mafty have already secured their top 2 spot. Now they're just waiting in the grand finals for the winners of IQ versus Tekka Dynasty. Either one, this is going to be a rematch for them. So Mafty are just waiting in the wings now.
Yeah, they are just, they're just looking so strong. I don't know if there's going to be that much of a chance for either of these teams to like really formulate a completely different game plan against them. We do know that Tekka Dynasty has been really flexible, and I really think that that's going to give them a potential advantage as far as like changing up how they play things, right? We've seen Nox, we've seen Gasman, both of them trying to play on some different roles altogether throughout the like tournament. Oh my gosh, we've been talking, we haven't actually had our feed. It looks like this map has actually been up, and we are already starting off. My apologies, team. We didn't get a chance to see how this started. So we are now 40% in the lead of Team IQ. We can see they've playing basically exactly the same way that they've been playing throughout this tournament on this map, where they are just holding that high ground, and it is so hard to fight away from that.
Staying away from point B. Point C is about to unlock, and it's just IQ with full control. Taking a look at the G maneuver built up right now, it looks like Chaotic has been able to do a lot with this Barbados so far. Fusion Blackie as well, but it's Exponent on this Zabi that's going to get it first here. We'll have the funnels ready to use. 0 Hour now dropping in with the rest of his squad, getting right into the thick of things of all units there as Chaotic comes in with the backline to stab down, and it's going to be a full team fight win for IQ.
Yeah, they have now just basically full team wiped 2 times in almost like 20 seconds. This is going to be a tough spot. We need to see a full, really regroup here, and let's just, take a second to look. We are on the double melee here on the side of Tekka Dynasty, and that's going to be tough to try and retake that top. We talked about that for quite a while as we didn't have our feed, but right now we're going to see Exponent actually getting dunked on. I don't know if that's enough. Yeah, not being able to do quite as much with that slam, with that W is going to be huge as Exponent actually gets away.
Take a look at Tekka Dynasty's side, though. They've got 4 G maneuvers available. They might actually be able to get all 6 online for this next fight as we swap on over once again for point A. For IQ, they're not quite in position here. It's going to come down to, of course, Mr. Big Large here on that Ash March to really control it. You can see how he plays it. He actually plays it on the other platform, and that's how he was actually able to control a lot of space with it. No one really challenging him there.
Yeah, and oh, look at this angle. Having the Dom up on that angle is so huge. There is now 2 G maneuvers popped. Nox popping the Trans Am, and then a robot popping the, oh my god, actually Gasman as well, popping so many G maneuvers. Everybody on both sides. The Trans Am is going to be one of the most effective here, but we can also see exactly how that Unicorn G maneuver can chunk so many people all at the same time. We're going to see a potential here to actually retake for Tekka Dynasty. They retake it. Now they need to find the high positioning.
Yeah, IQ though still, they've got a lot to work with, a lot of time to work with at the very least. They don't really have to fight for this one. It's going to be point B, finally going down onto the low ground, but IQ find 2 picks. Merle has gone down as we do have the Unicorn ultimate going down. Hawklight tries to delay with that Screaming Nimbus, but he gets cleaned up, and now it's going back on over towards IQ's control.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really great take, but they just weren't able to, again, hold that positioning. IQ has been so good at very confidently holding this high ground. They've got the exact team comp that you want for it as well. They're just playing it really well. Chaotic also has been finding, I think, a few more opportunities maybe than Gasman has been able to, trying to take back these high grounds. Only 2% left. Can there be a challenge? No. 5 people going on Tekka Dynasty. Nox the only one on the point holding this extra time, but I don't know how long he can stay there. And it looks like that's going to be round 1 going to IQ.
Man, what a dominant showing, and it's hard to tell exactly where this started. Like we said, we didn't actually have the feed on our end for the first 30% of it. One thing to note, in the difference of compositions, we do actually have a robot on the Unicorn, so the support line stays the same, but the big difference, I would say, is going to be Mr. Big Large. He's on that Ashmar, and he's going completely unchallenged in the skies. And so they don't have that same kind of AoE presence for Tekka Dynasty. They don't have the challenging Ashamar. And so when it comes to the neutral fights on the high grounds, on A and on B, excuse me, A and C on those platforms, he's winning out because there's no competition.
Wow, look at that, actually. 0 deaths for Chaotic. That's 0 deaths on a Barbados. That is extremely impressive. It's so easy to trade on Barbados, or even to get like 2 kills and then suddenly you die on Barbados because you're just putting yourself out there. You've got 1,000 life, you got 3 dashes, but you're still super vulnerable in all of your animations. So you can just tell just the level of like coordination that they had as far as not overcommitting, especially with a melee suit like that. But yeah, I totally agree with you. You need the air control here. We are going to have Nox now switching over, kind of agreeing with you as well, going to be switching over to the suit that he's been using, I think, almost as much as Exia on the Ashamar.
So it's mirrored compositions, and this time around you can see that IQ does get chunked down. A robot will fall along with a sword, and so it's IQ once again winning out on these high ground battles as point A is about to unlock. They are charging forward basically towards the spawn of Tekka Dynasty. Dark Infestor does finally answer back. That's just Merle going down, but not for long as he gets picked up. As point A unlocks, it's going to be IQ to take control.
And just a little minor thing that happened there, Chaotic actually killed Nox, and that might have been out of the sky, which is very impressive. I mean, hey, airborne, Barbados is kind of a thing too. You can be in the sky, but very impressive. Once again, almost no losses completely on the side of IQ, and there looks like they're already starting to hold kind of both sides of this top ground, so it's a little bit harder to push them from the flank as well.
I think it's just giving a little bit more support to Mr. Big Large, making sure that the Ashmar has a little bit more extra damage, and so they have aerial supremacy. 0 Hour is just able to dash back and forth in this fight. Again, Big Large comes up huge. Hawklight ends up going down to his own primary fire, and that's going to be a reset for them as we swap on over to point C. I don't know what it is about the algorithm on this map, but A and C are so absolutely favored.
I know! We've got so many of these without ever seeing B. It's hilarious. But yeah, we've got this usual kind of back and forth jump, and this is looking like a tough spot for Tekka Dynasty. Having to find these angles from below, you can see, is so tough, especially when they've got the high ground and the aerial advantage here, where you can even sit there in that safe place and still get hit by so many flame grenades, so many chunks from the Dom explosions. They need to find a way over. I love the fact that you can potentially jump from the other side. I would like to see them try it. We saw some other teams try that a few events ago. It eventually got shut down, but it might be an option, and we're actually going to see an attempt for it here, but that was a huge punch.
Huge punch, disrupting the back line, making sure 4 members of the TKD side are not there, but it looks like they've got enough oomph there to finish things off. So they will keep it alive for now. They will get some capture point here on point C. We'll see for how long, though. Merle, he's going to have his Screaming Nimbus available. We've even got Fusion Blackie with that Unicorn ultimate up, and 0 Hour with the Hades. They don't have this high ground control full quite yet. You can see they are a little bit split up. They can try and charge onto the 2 members there on the they're on the right-hand side, but here comes the push from IQ.
Yeah, and here we go. We see the POV of Chaotic for just a moment. Still, I believe, sitting on 0 deaths and kicking out Gasman 2 lives in a row now. Just winning that 1v1 Barb. And again, Chaotic just doing so much damage. Dark Infestor is going to get the pick up on Gasman, but then go down in exchange. And it looks like TKD is starting to fall a little bit more and more. They are going to get the chance to regroup and make one early push for A here.
Yeah, and that was one G maneuver actually utilized by IQ for that push to take it over. Now we're down to about 58% to the 32 of Tekka Dynasty, going back on over to point A. Screaming Nimbus to start things all off. They tried to get into the back line, I believe. Punch might have been used, but it's going to be Exponent getting the first knock as Sora goes down. Exponent might give his life for it, but he stays alive as Gasman ends up falling. Exponent popping out the funnels, charging forward as the point unlocks.
Oh, look at that Chaotic again. I would love to see if Chaotic has actually even died still at some point, but it's looking like they just don't have an answer for that Barbados. That is honestly almost the majority of the kills on the team, which is huge. Normally, you're not a huge, I guess, like kill number with Barbados. You pick off unique targets, but this has been like 3 kills every fight from Chaotic. Absolutely unbelievable. We do see a couple G maneuvers available on IQ side as well to try and hold this up until close to the end. I mean, this could be the last one, assuming there's no retake.
Yeah, Hades along with the Ashmar punch. Fusion Blackie almost goes down, but the Hades is there for 0 Hour, taking out a sword. And I believe that was the only G maneuver available at the time. Now with 5% remaining, it's all basically IQ until a few knocks are found. Knocks with that punch, with that Ashmar, a robot ends up getting the res onto Dark Infestor. They might be able to keep this one alive, but they need to charge onto the point. There's the punch in the back line coming out from Mr. Big Large, and they followed up with some damage, but Gasman finally comes alive on this Barbados to keep his team in it now in extra time.
Oh yeah, finally 2 Chaotic guaranteed going down. That might have been the first death of the game, but they are going to be able to hold this point for the rest of the round, and we are guaranteed again, like you said, no B point at all in this particular round. But there is a great chance here that they could actually just hold this entire thing if they can keep this high ground.
Yeah. Ooh, huge pickoff onto Exponent. And so that's going to buy a lot more time now. You can see a huge wraparound coming out from that IQ side. They're trying to find some picks. Unfortunately, though, 0 Hour misses out just a little bit. Knocks here on the high ground by himself. Does have to go back down. 67%. We're getting closer and closer here for Tekka Dynasty to possibly send us over to round number 3 as Hawklight finds one more knock, one more stagger. That is going to buy time once again for them. They need it because they are not close, a lot of them, to any G maneuvers. It's going to come down to Hawklight. He's at 84% towards that Screaming Nimbus.
Yeah, but on IQ side, we are 95% for Merle. But oh, again, 2 picks, Big Large and Exponent both going down. This is getting really close. There might not be that much more time to make the push. They might not even have enough time to wait for those 2 players to come back up. We see Gasman holding that close point and might get the pick on Fusion Blackie. Not quite going to be able to, but just keeping him off the point. Somebody needs to find the spot. Extra time is activated. This is the final team fight here.
And they don't quite have the G maneuvers. There it is. Screaming Nimbus coming out from either side. Hawklight dueling up against Merle. We'll see who comes out on top. It's going to be Merle as he ends up finding 2. And IQ somehow in the last battle will get the 2-0 victory here on Mountain R&D.
Oh my gosh. Reverse sweep, but I think that Screaming Nimbus was just so big. The fact that there were not that many G maneuvers in the final fight for the side of Team Tekka Dynasty. I mean, they had to do what they had to do to actually be able to take that spot and hold it for as long as they did, which is a really great showing. You know, I was afraid. I was like, okay, hold on. This is looking like a near 100% again. Are we going to just see another sweep here in the losers finals? But they put up a huge fight. They were just, I mean, that was like inches from overtime not even activating. shooting, the extra time. Like almost nobody was even on the point there. So you love to see the fact that they're putting up such an amazing fight. And this is probably going to be a close second map as well. But IQ in the end did manage to take it back. Again, you know, there had to be zero zero mistakes throughout the entire map, and that was the only way that they were going to win. And they just made one slight error in that final team fight, or just didn't have enough of a I guess enough resources left, and that's all it took.
Yeah, I mean, it was so incredibly close, but you have to really do give it up to Tekka Dynasty there, right? We're noting the one, compositional change. It was that Exia versus the Ashamar, and that was a huge difference maker. Once we saw them swap off to the Ashamar, have a little bit more presence from Nox to be able to actually contest and make sure that Mr. Big Large wasn't going completely uncontested in the sky, we saw how differently that round ended up playing out. So imagine if they started off round number 1 with that Ashamar.
Yeah, the flexibility, I mentioned this before, the flexibility of Team Tekka Dynasty is one of their greatest strengths. We know that like 3 people on their team have a ton of different suits, most notably Nox, right? Nox can play like 5 different suits at minimum at a pretty high level, I think. And being able to use the Ashamar or the Exia or just, I mean, pretty much anything, right? Is so huge. And that switch was incredible. But like I said, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe didn't quite find it in time. However, that's still going to be a huge thing for them to learn as a team. So regardless of whether or not they make it back in this set, I feel like they've gained a lot from just being able to play that. I gotta say though, MVP of that round, of that game, was Chaotic. Chaotic, unbelievable with the just everything on the Barbados, right? Almost went deathless. If that had gone a little bit better, it would have been deathless. If they hadn't been full team wiped, that would have been like something like 38-0, which on the Barbados in like high level is like unheard of. And it's not that, again, and obviously the other team wasn't playing bad. They brought it back to 99%. That was just Chaotic being just incredibly good.
Like a Methus pocket or anything, right? He doesn't have the energy cables. He has to rely upon health packs or falling back over towards his unicorn to keep himself topped off. So I do have to give props for that play on the Barbados, being able to stay alive in that kind of regard, especially when there's so much splash damage, a lot of spam coming across. You can easily just fall if you make one wrong misstep, but he kept himself alive. I would love to see the stats once again if we could, but again, just huge shout outs to everyone there. It was a fantastic match. I don't quite remember where we're going for our second map. Do you happen to remember, Wonder?
I think we're going to Quarry. I forget now. All of a sudden, it was such an intense first match. I think we're going to Quarry. I know that we have Thermal Plant as the decider, right? So it's going to be one of the other destruction missions. I believe it's Quarry because I think that we banned out Underground Command Center. So I'm gonna commit to that one. Okay, yeah, we got confirmation that it is actually Quarry, and just knowing that both of these teams are really doing a lot with their barbs means that this is going to be a big map. I mentioned this earlier. We saw really strong play from Barbados on both sides of this map, on offense and on defense, because there's so many walls, there's so many vertical options that you can hide behind on, especially on defense here. We've seen the really good Barbados is just be able to leap over and defend these pushes without ever being able to be shot at before they start their offense. And at the very minimum, the entire team has to turn around. They've got to deal with it. And then now maybe they're getting shot from the front. So I'm excited to see how these Barbados really match up here.
Yeah, and Gasman had some quite a run, I believe, when we were on Quarry yesterday. He had some amazing moments himself, actually putting in a lot of work with that Barbados, constantly playing that backliner when teams were going on the push. While he was on the defense, he was constantly being that nuisance, getting the waypoint for his squad, coming in, being that threat in the back line. But we'll see if Chaotic can actually match that in kind, or if we'll have a compositional change. Again, teams, they don't have to go for that Barbados. Barbados is kind of newer for us to see really in the competitive meta right now, but we're seeing why he is so strong.
We know for sure that Gasman, I think one of Gasman's greatest strengths is being able to be in the right place at the right time, right? Knowing how to prioritize objectives, how to prioritize, for example, like you said, that recapture on the waypoint or in that previous match that we saw like yesterday. But we know for sure that Chaotic can just like brawl, right? Like obviously wins a lot of fights. That was unbelievable. Like actually the best tournament showing that I've ever seen, I think, from Barbados. But being able to be in the right place at the right time is a little bit more important, I think, on Quarry than it's going to be on, for example, Mount R&D that we just saw, because all you have to do on Mount R&D is just win the fights, and then you're going to hold those positions. This one, there's a lot of really tough decisions to make, especially the fact that, especially on the first set of bombs, right? Where you're at the relay, you have to defend both sides of A and B. You have to make sure that you are, not going to put zero pressure on the relay. If you're on defense, you need to show them that, like, yes, we can take it back from you. You can't just all walk away from it easily. You have to at least check both lanes. So knowing how to successfully play that on this map is not going to be the easiest thing. I have confidence, right? Obviously, basically every player is really good here, but it'll just be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, and it's different ways that you can play the Barbados here as well, both on the offense and on the defense. You can, of course, try to play that constant nuisance threat, or you can try to play against the counter dive, because we know that teams initially, when they're trying to go for that fight, the offense, for that first waypoint, we're going to see a lot of diving coming out. And so how you respond to that is going to be important. The Barbados have to be ready, if that dive comes out, to be able to play that counter dive, the counter engage in that kind of scenario.
Yeah. The 1v1 happened so much in Mountain R&D that we just saw. And honestly, it did end up, I mean, I don't know if it was necessarily just like pure 1v1s, but it ended up, we saw Chaotic getting a lot of kills on Gasman. And that might have just been, again, the fact that most of the time it was Gasman trying to push into a high ground. And defensively, I mean, okay, this is an interesting thing to talk about, right? So I think for, okay, it sounds like we're actually getting the match started, but I think in a lot of games like this, like Gundam Evolution, a lot of times the melee are better, or the close range units are better in defense, because you can hold these tight corners. So we did see, I think, kind of that little bit of advantage there, but let's see if we are going to see the Barbados mirror. Overall, we might see some different team comps, as well, as far as like whether we're going to see the Unicorn again, or maybe we're going to see double Unicorn. It does look like we are actually going to be pretty close to what we had previous, except for Nox is going to be moving back to that Exia.
Yeah, so that's going to make their dive a lot more potent. A robot does swap off. So they're starting off on the offense. They want a little bit more single target heal instead of the AoE heal. We do, of course, for the offense on this first fight, they've got a lot more health packs to really be able to utilize as they move forward. Basically, if you say, this initial where Chaotic is standing is the line of demarcation, the halfway mark between the two teams, there's 3 health packs for them to really play off of moving forward, right? Well, there's only really the one that you can reliably use. Sure, you can say the second one if you're just moving towards the left-hand side where 0 Hour is playing. But because of that, that means you can focus a little bit more on single target heals with a robot.
Yeah, well, here we go. We're going to get the initial scan for the side of the defense, which you always love to see. It's one of the best uses, honestly, of Sazabi. I forgot the name of the suit for a quick moment because I'm looking too much already at the action. We're going to see a lot of harassment here from Nox. No full commitments, though, from the offense.
Yeah, right now they are just waiting for that charge. They do spot out one. It looks like Chaotic is going to come in for that counter dive, and that's how the Barbados needs to play it. He gives up the high ground to go ahead and engage upon that push, and it's a Hawklight finally take him out, but largely the defense is quite successful here.
Yeah, this is a great place to hold. I mean, there's just so many different spots that you can actually hold on this defense, but you can see them really taking advantage of that little defensive box. Community, I challenge you all to make a name for that box. Maybe there is a name for that box already. Maybe there's some people who have already thought of some names, but we see it so many times. I want a name for it. I want us to be able to call it out. But here we go again, the scan, just flying up in the air. One of my favorite techniques in this entire game. Not a super complicated one, but you love to see it.
And Chaotic is back in position there up on that high ground. Again, it's so hard to contest the Barbados that you just kind of want to allow him to have it. But if you allow him to have it, then he gets to be able to do this for free. The charge on in. He gets the knockdown on to the Sazabi, and they follow up as Sora going down. Looks like the defense once again bending but not breaking quite yet. Till he found a few more picks, but it looks like largely it is going to go the way of IQ and the defense.
Yeah, that was such a perfect example of, oh wait, what was that flying? That almost sounded like a gun tank G maneuver. That was very strange. It was just like maybe a little bit of an audio bug. But yeah, that is exactly just the perfect example of what you can do as defense, as Barbados on this map. It's so hard because you can't push that corner with Barbados sitting there. You can't push without looking at the Barbados. It's great flexibility.
They are finally going to challenge it, though, and they do it the right way. They challenge with multiple units, but doing so leaves Nox by himself. He ends up going down. That's going to be a one-for-one exchange, and dealing with Chaotic actually makes this dive a lot more potent now for Tekka Dynasty, as it looks like Gasman will be able to find one more. But the Hades is here for 0 Hour. He does get stunned up just a little bit, and there we go on the tail end. He'll be able to take out Gasman now. Time is starting to run out for Tekka Dynasty. There's 2 minutes remaining, and they haven't even gotten the waypoint yet.
Yeah, and we've seen this before. If you don't get the waypoint, oh wait, actually, hold on a minute. Nox actually sneaking through along with Dark Infester. They're gonna be not a full team going for this plant, but if you can at least start off this plant, the most of the defensive team is going to have to back up. And it looks like Nox is going for a little bit of like a sneaky, maybe offensive option here, going over to A, maybe trying to pull them over to A as somebody plants on B, but it's not going to be that much of a commitment if you're going to use the Screaming Nimbus. Jeesh.
Yeah, Merle's able to go in, get rid of Zazabi, and it looks like he'll be able to finish them off as well, as a robot ends up getting knocked back up into things. And unfortunately for Tekka Dynasty, they try to charge a little bit too forward without having the full group up. You saw that there was a little bit of indecision coming out, as they didn't really want to go for that B plant, and I can understand why you want to try and play off of A there. But it's going to be the reset. They didn't lose out on the waypoint. Now they've got a minute left to try and get the Mega Charge down. Hawklight does end up getting it down, but you can see that it was just a bait coming out from IQ. But here comes the counter engage from the offense.
Yeah, this is probably going to be a disarm. Oh, just barely preventing it. Super great notice by Nox to not quite let that go off. Is going to be boosted even by this Methis G maneuver. So this is going to be entirely up to Nox to protect this. This is going to end before the end of the plant. But oh, was that actually a takedown by the Barbados? Maybe just a little bit of extra damage. Yeah, it does look like Chaotic did take out Nox. And there is an offense on the relay to try to retake it. This disarm is going to go off here. And the relay slightly retaken. They retook it, then re-lost it.
That's so strange, because typically you think, yeah, so Zabi, get on the point, body block for this disarm. Instead, no, he actually goes back for that waypoint, and it was actually crucial. That's a much longer run back if you don't have that waypoint. Now the Screaming Nimbus comes out. Nox is able to just charge through that one as he chases after Big Large, taking him out. TKD needs to start on the Mega Plant. Someone needs to start it up, but it looks like it got disrupted. They're back onto point A, but now you've got the Trans Am coming in. No, never mind, it's Chaotic with his own G maneuver cleaning up too. Mega Plant goes down onto the B sites, but they don't have any more units here to try and defend, as he ends up going down. IQ get the defusal, and they'll just stop it here on the first half.
Yeah, that was a great little skirmish from Tekka Dynasty to really like confuse the other team, but they just never had a full team in place to defend once the plant actually happened. I don't think we saw them go for a full 6-man push on either of the sites that entire game, which was interesting. And I think we actually did see this from them earlier on Quarry as well. They've got that double kind of flanker, that double like skirmishy brawler team, but they just aren't able to defend once they actually get the plant, especially once you're on A. Obviously, we saw a really amazing defense from Nox, but that required basically 2 G maneuvers, and then still it ended up getting disarmed in the end. So I would love to see them maybe try to coordinate the pushes a little bit more, but they're not going to get a chance now. Of course, they're going to be on the defense, and I think their team is really going to thrive on defense here, just because double brawler on these angles can be terrifying. Exactly what we saw from the Barbados, but like times 2.
Take a look at the damage difference right here. 0 Hour on the Pale Rider, actually ballooning there with 22,000 damage. And the next 2 up behind, I believe, was Mr. Big Large along with Merle on the Ashamar and the Doms respectively with 17K. So with the space that Merle and Mr. Big Large have been able to buy for them, 0 Hour is really able to succeed being able to buy the squad. Hawklight will go ahead and set up for this. And like you said, taking a look at this defensive hold, it's going to come down to Chaotic. He was doing an amazing job when we were on Mountain R&D. How does he play here in the counter dive up against Double Brawler?
Yeah, let's Actually, see, I mean, so far, Chaotic has been really an MVP to me. I mean, this is such a great team, right? There's so many strong players. We've seen every single person on this team, on the team side of IQ, pop off so far, literally throughout this entire tournament. They've only been on stream like 3 times. But here we go, pushing the high ground. We're not going to see as much of a defensive Barbados hold from Gasman. Going to hold a little bit more inside of this building, which means that there's a little bit more control up here, although it looks like IQ isn't even going to try to take advantage of this. This is the opportunity to jump, but Gasman getting focused so well.
He gets focused down, but that's 2 picks already coming out for the Tekka Dynasty squad. So they're largely successful, but they are still super low as Hawklight will end up falling in IQ. She'll be able to get onto this waypoint pretty quickly, unless Nox has something to say about it, cleaning up in the tail end there. But he is, without the rest of his team, he's got to be careful in how he engages here. He's super low. A robot is here to top him off, back off. And it looks like Chaotic will be able to find one. Nox going down, but he does get charged by Isosaur. Now things are looking a little bit dire here. Waypoint will get picked up by IQ. Now the decision. Is it going to be A? Is it going to be B? Gasman gets picked off, unfortunately, here as Dark Infestor is trying to play off of this A site now.
Yeah, this is great timing for both of these both of these teams. They've both taken the waypoint pretty quickly as far as things go, right? We've seen these teams really be able to hold on the waypoints really, really well, but now we're just going to have, again, these huge brawls over here. They're trading 1 for 1. Gasman's going to take on Exponent. Hawklight's going to go down in exchange, but actually getting picked back up, so it looks like it wasn't a full destroy, and Merle gets absolutely melted trying to get that plant.
Oh boy. Despite the time discrepancy, it looks like, once it came down to the points, when it came down to getting the Mega Charge down, they're still delaying quite well for Tekka Dynasty now, as Mr. Big Large does end up finding that win in the 1v1 up against Nox, and so they might finally find an opening, but again, it's going to come down to which point is it going to be, A or B. Mega Charge is going down on A, but they have not been able to secure it quite yet. Chaotic here in the back line, the Methus will end up falling.
Ooh, yeah, that's going to be a huge delay here. And Fusion Blackie not quite being able to get that plant. Nox just going on with that Trans Am, getting so much damage. Nox just really likes playing this Exia around this point A, but not going to be able to get full usage out of that Trans Am. This might be a great opportunity here for the plants. Merle is going to end up getting it down. We are going to see the shield coming out from Exponent, literally just standing in front so that the plant actually happens. That is going to be Gasman, though, taking down two players went down overall, 3 members of IQ going down, and this looks like this could be a pretty easy disarm.
Yeah, they don't have any of their disruption here. They don't have any of the CC. It's all only basically Fusion Blackie that could have stopped him from going for that defuse. So we are now back to neutral. Unfortunately for Tekka Dynasty, they weren't able to go and get that waypoint. So IQ are going to have a faster regroup here, and it looks like they might try and go for this B side. 0 Hour does have the Hades available. It does seem like Fusion Blackie does have the Unicorn ultimate now, and they're going to go ahead and instantly pop that to try and find the first pick.
Yeah, this can be hard to find the right angles here with this G maneuver, but that was certainly the right angle, and they are getting a lot of mileage out of this. It is so hard to push in. I'm surprised that nobody actually went for the push right here, but we're going to see the counter G maneuver from Hawklight to try to push everybody off of A. It looks like there was a little bit of a rotation from IQ to get all the way over here. Hawklight goes down, Chaotic goes down, and now this is not going to be a full team on either side.
And that was huge. Actually, someone from the Tekka Dynasty squad was able to get into the back line and take that waypoint away from IQ. So the regroup is going to be incredibly hard. Tekka Dynasty finding a few more picks there, getting the res onto Nox as well. They're going to try and finish off the Sazabi before they go for the defuse. And I love that they're putting the focus on the team fight first before they go for the objective. They still have time to play off of. Chaotic has been spotted down. I believe he will go down very shortly, but no, they end up actually pulling away the focus onto him a little bit too early here. Now there's only 2 seconds left. Someone needs to get onto the objective. They do get the defuse here, and now there's only 4 seconds remaining. Merle's going to try and go for a miracle, but no, IQ are not going to be able to do it.
Wow, after that incredible hold, they just weren't able to put together their offense. And it felt to me like we saw a very similar story, I think, on both sides for the offense here, right? The defense was strong in both directions, but it seemed like both teams really wanted to go for this brawling style. And there were very few pushes that were completely on one point. There was that one time where we saw that IQ pushed all the way over into point B, but then they ended up in the end like shifting over to A, and there was the pop off with that unicorn G maneuver in B, but like half the team was on A, so nobody planted behind the unicorn. So it might have just been some level of, I almost want to say like just like lack of coordination with where people wanted to stay. And we've actually seen that a few times on Quarry throughout this tournament. I feel like that's just continuing to happen.
Yeah, I believe we've only seen the second half of Quarry once so far on broadcast, because it ends right here on the first basically plant, and teams have been finding it really difficult to try and regroup as a full, right? And that kind of does come down to how the map works out. There are so many ways to rotate between A and B. Trying to control it all can be a little bit too much, and so teams, I feel like, are just getting a little bit lost in the sauce in that regard, and really how they want to approach which side to take. And it's so difficult in this brawler heavy meta right now, with so many teams picking Barbados, still Exia in play as well, but the Ashamars and all the Doms, there's just so much disruption that it's become so difficult to decide on either A or B.
Yeah, it's certainly strange, and especially with the fact that we've seen, I would say, more Quarry now than we have previously. It's strange to see just how the strategies overall have developed, but that does mean, I believe now, that IQ has won game 1 and that TKD has won game 2, right? So that we are going to Thermal Plant.
Yep,
yeah,
Thermal
Plant
Plants round it out here, and I mean, this is going to be different, right? Because we saw that it was a little bit of a slow uptake for the Tekka Dynasty squad, right? They didn't start off with the Ashamar. They made the swap in round 2 after losing round 1 on Mountain R&D, and we saw how much of a difference that made. Here on Thermal Plant, the Ashamar, while it is still strong, it's not going to have that same kind of presence, right? It's not the same kind of mirror on A and C on Thermal Plant. They are completely different sites. And this is where, again, Brawl Heavy with Exia and Barbados can definitely succeed.
Yeah, this is, I mean, honestly though, this one's interesting because for sure, I mean, I think I've said this before, I think this is one of the best Barbados maps, and this is also one of the best Exia maps for sure, but I think Ashamar is incredibly strong here as well. I mean, Ashamar is strong on pretty much every map, but I think that the verticality of this map means that all 3 of those suits are really, really strong on here, and they can really just be the deciding factor. So I feel like they're fine to not go for the Ashmar, but still, if they don't have an Ashmar, that will be an advantage, considering the fact that we've seen that Mr. Big Large is obviously quite a strong Ashmar, one of the strongest ones that we have. So we'll just see how it ends up playing out against each other. So far, Thermal Plant, we've only seen, I think, 1 time on broadcast, maybe it was 2, but it ended up being a little bit more dominant than maybe we expected. We did see it, of course, in that winners finals match where we saw Mafty just really just hold the high ground. And we didn't get a chance to see even one of the points almost entirely. I don't think if we ever went to A, I think maybe it was only between B and C, and we didn't even get to see that many points in general. So we'll see what points we end up getting. Of course, we're not going to have the Mountain R&D curse probably of only just A and C. And I feel like, especially with the double melee, you're going to want a lot of C. You're going to want a lot of probably A, but you really want C. I think you really want C as double melee.
And we'll also see if maybe we get the Profi pick, right? Profi ended up pulling out the Zaku 2 range when we were on Thermal Plant earlier today, and it did actually succeed quite well. It was playing it basically how Zaku 2 is supposed to be played. You're not trying to get the kills. If you can, definitely that's a huge plus, but you're trying to bait out a lot of the utility from the other side, and he was doing that extremely well. So that is still a thing that we could actually see. I don't know who would pull it out, just because of how it feels like, you know, the roles are set so far in the teams. Maybe some of our Pale Rider players can go ahead and make that swap off for themselves. But with how 0 Hour has been succeeding so far on the Pale Rider, with how much damage he's been dishing out, I don't really see him going and making the swap and the flex for that Zaku 2 range pickup if they want to choose it.
Yeah, that's honestly a suit I would love to see more. We've seen it, we saw it today in one particular match and they won, right? We also saw it in one match in the previous tournament, and that was actually pre some buffs. So Blanca 2 does a little bit more damage now. It has a smaller mag, but the overall DPS is higher, so you can actually melt people quicker, get out of there. So we saw that on I don't know if you remember, but it was on defense on Flak Fort, and it was like, this is an interesting pick. Is this going to work out? And it did super well. I believe they actually just completely held on A, or they held for a really long time on that A point on defensive Flak Fort, just held those tight little angles. And I just want to see more of Zakutu melee. It can be a really annoying suit. You can't just run around and flank people for free like you can on ranked or in casual matches, obviously, when these teams are so strong. But holding the small angles, the short angles, and just being one of the literally like the highest DPS suit in the game, as far as I know, means that even if they jump in with something like a Barbados, you can melt the Barbados before the Barbados can even get to you, just by the nature of having that Zakutu machine gun. It does so much damage. So I want to see more of it. So far, it's worked pretty well.
And you have to also remember that not all dashes are created equally. While some units might have 3 dashes, some dashes are longer than others, and Zakutu range does have the longest dashes, and he has 3 of them. So it's incredibly strong in that in the mobility front as well. Again, just being able to have that kind of not self-sustain, but self-reliability with the smoke screen, being able to get out of dodge, have the extra mobility is incredibly potent for him as well. Having a little bit of CC and the concussion and the animation cancels that come with it as well. It makes it so much fun to play. I hope that we get to see a little bit more of it. I'm glad that we got to see Profi actually picking that one up. I don't know how much of it is an actual pick for them, or if they just want to kind of test the waters with it.
Yeah, we'll see. That probably is not going to be super relevant here. Looks like we're getting into game number 3. We'll see if there is some Zakutu ranged pick. That'll be a miracle. But I just really like talking about the suit. One of my favorite in the entire game. But I expect that we're probably going to see some pretty similar builds here. We are going to see a robot switching over to the Unicorn. We'll have double Unicorn. Makes a lot of sense. They're already here at C. So we're going to be starting off on C. And there's already a huge engage from Nox.
Big stun out as he does actually get right on top of the Suzabi. Unfortunately for him, not quite the angle for the rest of the squad to follow up, but he does back away, and that does actually buy the space. You can see actually the IQ squad completely falling back, and Nox just gets right on in. They do end up losing out on Infestor, but that's the only trade, largely going in favor of Tekka Dynasty here as they take control of the point.
Yeah, Mr. Big Large is trying to get some harassment from the back, at least maybe make them turn around. But the 1v1, we got the dual Gasman versus Chaotic. Oh no. Has to escape from Nox as well. Just hiding back in, it's like, I'm going back to safety. I don't want to take the 2v1. The 1v1 was fun, 2v1, a little bit less. But here's the regroup. There's already some great high ground positioning here, though, from Team Tekka Dynasty.
This 1 point is going to be swapping on over to B next as well. So the transition, the rotate, isn't going to be as punishing here. You don't have to go cross map. Exponent actually tries to go in so aggressively. He's got 1 HP, but his shield will end up going down. That's 2 picks coming in now for Tekka Dynasty. IQ trying to get really aggressive with that one, trying to buy some space. Chaotic finds 1, but you can see that team fight win, or at least finding those picks, comes a little bit too late because the point now is swapping on over.
Ooh, and look at that mobility to get all the way to the high ground on B in 1 single leap. We got a Superman move over here. But yeah, that taking out Nox was huge. However, I mean, the respawn with the changing point is going to mean that Nox is going to have some time to come back. Gasman going down, not going to be able to quite get that hold on that kind of door of point B. And it looks like a whole lot of Tekka Dynasty is just going to be waiting outside, waiting for that respawn for one more big push.
You do have the Hades actually available right now, but it's Hawklight. They really want to enable things, right? He's only 10% away from having that Screaming Nimbus, but on the other side, Mr. Big Large, he can allow the Screaming Nimbus come in and just wait for the rest of the 5 members and just disrupt them with that Ashmar punch. You can see he's just waiting right above. They are expecting this push to come out from mid.
Yeah, but this high ground is so strong. Dark Infestor is going to have to find a great angle, and this push up might just be death. X-Men is holding that point so that nobody can sneakily steal it, and look at this, holding the best spot possible, although that Hades might just melt the shield. G-maneuver and a G-maneuver, though, so many used all in a row, and Dark Infestor is low, but trying to get as much damage as possible, cannot escape the Screaming Nimbus.
Beautiful play coming out from Tekka Dynasty there. They're expecting Mr. Big Large to come in for that punch, and they play for it and actually kite around it. So he gets no value off of that, and then they re-engage with that Screaming Nimbus. So now Tekka Dynasty at 56%. They'll be able to get up to close to, what, 65 before the point swaps on over, and we are going back on over to point C. Gasman setting up for it, finds the pick onto one. He takes out the Unicorn, finds one more with the G maneuver. That's going to be a three-piece for Gasman.
Beautiful. That was the pop-off necessary. That's going to almost guarantee at least amazing positioning at C when the timer pops, when it opens up actually as a point. You can see almost the entirety of Team Tekka Dynasty is already there. We're going to have to see regroup on Team IQ, and this can be a really tough one to push. You know, you've got the double layers here, and getting stuck in this little building that they're kind of like regrouping in can be a death sentence if you've got a lot of AoE like that big G maneuver from the Unicorn.
Now it's all going to come down to Azor. He should have the funnels up ready in the back line. Mr. Big Large actually chasing after the Barbados there, but Gasman will be able to get out of dodge. 0 Hour by himself underneath. Dark Infestor ends up finding one, but it's going to be the Unicorn G maneuver on the other side, finding value for IQ, but they still need to get on point. And this is the problem with C. It's so hard to win the fight completely, but they will be able to evict them for now, and it looks like if things don't go the way of TKD, we'll be going over to point B once again.
Yeah, just the back and forth, back and forth. Only 20 seconds left. I don't know how much you want to fight for this, but it looks like Gasman, just barely surviving, getting the large health pack. That's going to be huge right there. They are going to take down Chaotic as well. That means Chaotic is going to be down for most of the time as this starts, but here we go. Gasman just going in and swinging, and they're going to be trading a Barbados for a Barbados. Exponent as well going down, getting picked back up. So there's Barbados for basically this push as B starts to open up.
Gasman just narrowly misses out on that Mega. If he could have picked it up, that could have been the team fight win for them. But here we go. Sora now moving in with the funnels and with the backup of Merle. Looks like it's going to be a robot going down. Chaotic, though, here on point to try and finish one off. He's going to go ahead and pop that G maneuver, finds one off of it. He's trying to chase for a little bit more, but it looks like mostly IQ coming out on top for this team fight win. Unless Gasman is able to get Dark Infestor back into things. 0 Hours finds one onto Knock. Dark Infestor goes down once more, but the parting nade there to get that kill as Gasman now will use that G maneuver himself, chasing them into spawn, but he needs to back away. And so TKD, Tekka Dynasty, just 13% away from getting the first round.
Yeah, this looks like this will be the final point here. Somebody needs to get on the point. There's only 8% left, 3% left basically at this point, but nobody's on point. Who's going to actually challenge this? Oh, just barely in time. They timed that really perfectly, but this is the final fight. We're going to see all three people from IQ going down. Four. This might be a complete hold. Not a single suit on the side so far. Just all the G maneuvers popped. They know this is the exact moment they need, and Tekka Dynasty, it needs one more round now to make it back into the grand finals.
It was just really unfortunate. IQ just had no more firepower at the end. Like you said, that Hades comes in for Tekka Dynasty. They had 2 more G maneuvers to put the kibosh on that round as well. We'll see if Tekka Dynasty will continue to run this double melee. I mean, they should. They've got the win. Will IQ make any changes here up against that brawler heavy composition of Tekka Dynasty?
I mean, they were fighting well, right? But I just feel like they need to make one small change. I don't know what it's going to be. And I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily as far as like what your comp is. They just need to make some sort of strategy change. And you can see Mr. Big Large leading the damage here, but Gasman actually with a huge amount of damage. Chaotic actually a lot lower than we saw in previous games, but Gasman just doing an unbelievable amount of damage for what is usually a relatively low damage suit. And I think a lot of it was from those G maneuvers. However, we cannot ignore Dark Infestor, who's been, I don't want to say ignored, but like not focused on as much as maybe previously. And that might be biting IQ in the butt a little bit.
It was 0 Hour that was actually popping off quite a bit in that regard. But at this point, you know, the space that's being provided for our players is, or for our Pale Rider players is actually incredible.
Yeah, this is their chance to shine, but here we go. The initial fight for A. We're seeing the A for the first time in 2 full sets on this map so far, and we'll see how these teams actually play. Right now, it's looking like IQ is in full control as they've already gotten about 3 to 4 picks. Hawklight's going to go down, and Dark Infested. They're pushing all the way to spawn with this extremely aggressive push led by Exponent.
That is a rundown if I've ever seen one there. Mr. Big Large will try to utilize that aerial maneuverability of that Ashamar, but oh, yes, man! What are we playing Dead by Daylight here? Like, he was looking for a pallet to try and stop that. No! What a huge pickup here for IQ. 17% now. It looks like they're going to have full dominance over point A.
Yeah, got it. You got to use that large fly swatter to swat those bugs out of the air for sure. But yeah, this is going to be pretty much, I think, a full hold on A. Even if they repush at this point, it's going to basically give them like 3 seconds. So I think they're probably going to reposition to B. It does look like we're going to see Dark Infestor already get up there. But wow, most of Team IQ is actually already up on the high ground. They have just so heads up with this advantage.
It was just a 5-man peel onto Nox to make sure they get rid of him, but that means there's another threat to deal with. That's going to be Gasman coming in from the backlight. Hawklight taking out his counterpart in Merle now, as the point hasn't even unlocked quite yet, and it's still a back-and-forth affair until Dark Infestor finds more. One more Exponent going down. And that's actually quite huge. He had the funnels ready to basically try and win out this point by himself, but that could be the engage for IQ as the point unlocks in 10 more seconds.
Yeah, Nox is actually just flying around this area, like every single bit of this level. Oh, but here we go. The G maneuver popped immediately. Screaming Nimbus is going to take down 2 people on the backside of that high ground, and it just leaves them to just knock them off. Hawklight and Dark Infestor are going to go down. Gasman's going to get a pick in return, though, so there will be no Hades on the other side. X-Minute has the G maneuver, is going to use it, but it's just such low life. This could end up kind of coming back. Oh, wait, maybe it's actually over already.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about the value of G maneuvers, and Screaming Nimbus is absolutely insane. Dark Infestor ends up popping his Hades, but Hades does not trump a Screaming Nimbus. There's just so much damage, you cannot focus down a Dom fast enough to try and shut it down. Very few things can, as oh boy, as his sword tries to go for that peek on the angle, he gets instantly taken down. That's one more going down. Gasman does find one, as IQ tries to get aggressive onto this, but still, I love the aggression that's coming out from IQ right now. They're trying to equalize things out here. Remember, this is the deciding map to see who will be facing off up against Mafty in our grand finals.
Ooh, and that looked like that was a little bit of a whiff on the G maneuver from the Barbados. It looks like that's going to be gone for this final push now, at least. This is nearly a perfect round. It's going to be potentially ending on C, and we're already seeing several members of IQ fall. This might be another potential huge comeback hold from Tekka Dynasty.
Now 0 Hour, when he runs back, he will have that Hades available. Fusion Blackie just trying to preempt the push coming out from Tekka Dynasty with that kind of Unicorn ultimate. But now it's all going to come down to Fusion, 0 Hour here. Hawklight ends up taking him out, but that's a 1-for-1 exchange. Zabi is gone, so the tank line is not there. Nox in a battle in the back line. He is not going to win out that one. It's going to be Chaotic trumping that one. And it looks like IQ, they give up C for a little bit, but they should be able to win this one out.
Yeah, Chaotic doing such a good job taking out Nox multiple times in this game, but here we go. Melee versus the shield. Oh no, not quite able to get the hit, and the perfect axe coming out of Azor is eventually going to fall, but still that's going to give at least a small amount of advantage for the rest of this team pushing in. They're not going to have time to regroup. This needs to be TKD taking the team wipe here, taking the full thing, but it does look like we're going to get a pick up on the side of IQ. It's going to need most of them up to defend this.
Oh no, the G maneuvers are here though. Azor should have that funnel ready, but you can see how difficult it is to try and play off of that when there's multiple levels that teams can utilize to actually just disengage from that one. Azor finds one. Dark Infestor on the high ground, gonna chase down. He might go down, but Exponent is gonna lose him for just a moment. Finally peeks the cord, takes him out, as it looks like IQ might be winning out on this fight. Gasman though is getting close to that G maneuver right now. Tries to take the 1v1 up against the Barbados, but he gets disrupted. That punch is not going to be enough to finish him off. He does back away in time. And Mr. Big Large is trying to put a stop to him for now, but you can see they're able to back away, heal up, and now Chaotic just holding on to that Barbados G maneuver this whole time. IQ looking to equalize things and then send us over to round number 3.
Nice, great usage of the G maneuvers right there. Not popping them a little bit too early. We've seen that a few different other times over the past, I guess, 2 days, where people will use all their G maneuvers and then not quite have enough for those exact final seconds, or one person will remain on the site. But that was a lot of confidence from IQ, and we're going down to Game 3, final round for Losers Finals. It's one round to decide who's going to make it into that guaranteed top 2 spot for those extra Pilot Academy points for that run back for either of these teams up against Team Matthews. They've both been playing so well. This has been an incredibly close set, but it's down to one final round.
What I'm wondering is just Matthew, what are they seeing in this, right? They've been able to knock down both of these squads. We're talking about the rematch. Mafty, they won out their matches pretty handily up against both of them. So are they able to spot any more weaknesses here? Is there something they want to try and really focus on in the rematch when it comes down to the grand finals? But man, what a way to finish off the lower bracket here. TKD, Tekka Dynasty versus IQ. One final round to decide it all here on Thermal Plant.
Yeah, and this has gone back and forth so well. It doesn't look like we're gonna get any major switches that I can notice right now. Nox still sticking on that Exia. We're gonna be starting off on C where we ended the previous round, so just going right back into it, basically into the same round. But we're gonna see Chaotic try to get the jump, the literal jump here on to Merle, but not gonna quite be, so not Merle, the other one. Not quite gonna be able to get it.
Ends up picking up 2 there. Hawklight finds the 3rd this time around. It's going to be Tekka Dynasty with dominant control over point C. Dark Infestor with the heal to keep his team topped off. And Fusion Blackie gets chased down by our Pale Rider player. Merle cannot fall. Otherwise, they're going to stagger themselves so much. But it looks like he will be able to exit at the very least. Hawklight ends up trying to go for that mega health back, but gets taken out. So now there is actually a weakness on the TKD defense here as they try to hold on to the point. IQ should be able to charge forward, but it looks like they're not able to take advantage of this window.
Yeah, that res was huge, and it looks like Dark Infestor might get picked up again 2 times in one single round, and it does actually happen. One single life, I should say, with almost 10 seconds. It looks like most of Team IQ is actually on the bottom. Chaotic, of course, holding on that top spot along with Fusion Blackie, but they are going to, at the minimum, I mean, it's going to be close to tying up, right? It's going to be almost tying up. B is going to be where this tie kind of breaks, and they're already fighting for it here.
Oh man, this is just a brawl. It's so hard to call these team fights because it has been just a lot of individual fights because of Exia, because of the Barbados. Mr. Big Large is trying his best to make sure that the flanks aren't coming out for them, but Nox is still finding angles. He finds one onto Merle, and we still have 20 seconds before point B unlocks.
Yeah, but already the battle is raging here. IQ has for sure the dominant position, but Dark Infestor has the chance here to try to even things up. Wow, immediately gets focused. Luckily, of course, that healing is still very strong, even post-nerf on the Pale Rider, but they just have not been able to knock IQ off of that high ground. Chaotic, just being able to go back and forth, is controlling so much of this space.
Point has unlocked and it is being contested for now. Nox getting into the back with the Trans Am, but it has ended and he gets taken out. 0 Hour with the nade to finish him off. Looks like IQ have the numbers advantage. They have the G maneuvers as well to hold it down. A lot of them coming online. We've got the Hades, we've got the Barbados G maneuver, along with the Gundam Unicorn and the Screaming Nimbus for Merle in just a moment.
Yeah, and on the other side, the only ones we're going to get are Funnels and potentially Hades. Oh, actually, the Screaming Nimbus, and yeah, okay, so we just need to build a little bit of time for Tekka Dynasty to be able to get those resources back. But everything is up, and we are going to see at least 1 popped on the side of IQ, 2 popped, but immediately Merle gets focused down midway through that Screaming Nimbus, and they're going to be trading a lot of suits for a lot of suits here. This is a brawl.
Yeah, but for TKD, they understand that, hey, you know what? The point, there wasn't that much progress left remaining here. So we're not going to expend the G maneuvers. We're going to actually save them for the next point. We're going on over to A. On the other side, though, for IQ, they didn't pop everything in that fight. They still have the Barbados G maneuver. They still have the funnels along with the Hades to utilize. But in the face of 5 G maneuvers now coming online for Tekka Dynasty, this can be an incredibly difficult fight.
Yeah, especially this Gasman G maneuver, but here we go. We're seeing at least 2 popped. Hades is popped alongside the Screaming Nimbus, and now Gasman using the sword here, and that is going to be 3 players at least, taking down 4 players, 5 players, almost a full team wipe. 0 Hour still has Hades up, but just alone, how long can they actually survive? Not that long. That is essentially a full team wipe. The only reason it wasn't was somebody actually got back up midway through that fight, but that's going to be Tekka Dynasty trying to hold this A point using all of their resources. There's actually, I'm sorry, not all the resources. IQ used all their resources, and Tekka Dynasty still has a few left.
Yeah, things are looking really bad for IQ here. I wish they did not use any of their G maneuvers, because now the power has been swayed on over for Tekka Dynasty. They're getting close to tying things up, but Mr. Big Large coming in with a massive Falcon Punch in the back line there might be enough for IQ to sway things on over. Still, though, this is an extremely close match, 58 to 58%, and now we are going back on over to point C.
Yeah, and that was a lot of resources expended by IQ to only get about, 15 seconds of time on point A. So again, we're going to be at a resource advantage overall for Tekka Dynasty. Once they get this regroup, they've still got the funnels, they've still got the Unicorn G maneuver, both of them being activated at the same time, and those can both be huge on this point.
And the Trans Am is coming up for Nox to finish things off. This is where a robot wanted to save that Gundam Unicorn G maneuver for it. It is so good in the narrow corridors that teams end up funneling into. Big Large does end up taking out Hawklight, but that's still a 2-for-1 exchange. Dark Infestor playing with a lot of space here now. They try and charge forward. Tekka Dynasty has the point unlocked. They should gain control over point C, but Exponent is here in the last second to try and contest, but he gives his life for it. And that should mean Tekka Dynasty just get the point for themselves, and now without a tank, it's going to be incredibly hard for them to try and challenge.
Yeah, Gasman goes down in return, but overall, I feel like you really need that for that push through that small doorway from spawn. We are going to see Nox spin around, try to get a little bit of a flank, as Tekka Dynasty is going to hold this, slightly break the lead here, but this is very close. Both teams above 70% in this final round, this match point round for both teams, and we're going to see the chase around from Mr. Big Large. We've got the Flame Grenade in such a huge chunk of players. Oh, Tekka Dynasty is just melting there. The punch is available as well. We are going to see it. It's going to slightly whiff. It might have hit on one person, but that is a huge amount of suits down. On the other side, though, IQ is losing suits as well. They don't have enough people to take it back. 95%.
Oh, he ends up losing out on the duel, but Chaotic is basically the only one up to try and contest here. 97%. Someone needs to touch the point. Mr. Big Large coming in a little bit too late, and it's so hard to fly on over. Chaotic, though, with the Barbados G maneuver going down, takes out Dark Infestor, keeping things alive so far for IQ, but in the extra time, they still need 29% here to try and secure the map, to try and secure that rematch up against Mafty, as Gasman finds 2 with that Barbados. Hawklight finds 1 more, and it looks like Tekka Dynasty might have done it, but Mr. Big Large is still keeping them alive throughout all of this. It's going to come down to Merle now. Screaming Nimbus to get his team back onto the point. Extra time ticking away. Someone needs to touch, but Merle is not able to. He gets disrupted in the back line. It's gonna be Tekka Dynasty walking away with the win, now headed for that rematch up against Team Mafty.
Wow, what a final round. What a final fight to a final round to a final game of that set. That was incredible. That fight went on for so long in extra time with so many of those players getting staggered, but IQ was just not giving up. I mean, that was incredible play, but that set came down to the absolute wire, and that is exactly the way that I want to see it. But Tekka Dynasty, the team that has fought, I mean, the team that's currently left that has fought by far the most other teams throughout this bracket, have continued to fight tooth and nail, getting knocked in the losers bracket a little bit earlier than some of these others, playing a bunch of other teams such as Bozos in the losers bracket, and then making it all the way back up here against another team that was in the top 3, earning their 2nd place spot, which is, again, farther than Team Tekka has ever done in these brackets, but now they get their chance at the rematch.
And it's so crazy. It's so rare for us to get a map number 3, but it seems like every time we do, it comes down to the wire like this one. It doesn't get any closer than that. What a way to finish off the lower bracket. But now for Tekka Dynasty, for them, it's the rematch, right? They have, like we said, they had the night to try and maybe look over the tape. What did they know in their matchup initially up against Mafty? What can they do to try and change things up in that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say, right? It was pretty dominant, I think, the first time that they played. So we'll see exactly what changes they can make. But overall, I feel like they're playing so much better as time goes on. Not that they were bad at all, right, when they first started the tournament, but you can just tell as time has gone on, these players have gelled more together. They've had to play more matches than pretty much any other team in this entire tournament. So for sure, they're getting that experience. They've clutched out a bunch of really close moments now throughout the entire bracket, and now they get to clutch out one more. But that does mean that we are set for our grand finals. Congratulations to IQ for making it into our third place spot. That is still a ton of points towards the Pilot Academy. Top three get just a ton of points overall. So huge congratulations to them. They were as close as it can be to getting into that second place spot. But we've got one more match to go before we decide who our champion is. It's going to be the run back from way early in day number one. And this could go either way. But before we do that, we're going to have a short break. So you're not going to want to go anywhere because we're going to see who our Celestial Assault Grand Champion is after this break.